Next up is Shourya Ranka. Shourya has almost a decade of experience working across multiple blue chip companies in various technical roles. Excuse me. He is now the engineering manager at The Economist, and he is going to be talking about a topic that is probably something that everyone here has dealt with or heard about, which is migrating from monoliths to microservices to transform user experience and build resilience. So Shourya, over to you.
Thanks, Akhil. Right then, hello everyone. Firstly, thanks to the Apidays team for having me here and speaking about what we have on board today. That's migrating from monolith to microservices, transforming UX and building resilience. Now, this has been a much more talked about topic as different companies across the world have started to get into this mode of reusability, transforming the user experience, building resilient engineering teams, and delivering products that are resilient to the client needs as well. What's up on my agenda then? So, firstly, I'll talk a bit about what brings me here. Then, to set up some context, I'll talk about the Economist Intelligence and its offerings, because it's very important to understand that in context of the problem statement, how we started, working on the turnaround, where we stand, and what we achieved. Uh, we will be talking about the traditional approach of building products that we had and areas we were falling short with this approach. Now, as a part of the turnaround, we'll be touching base on the migration from monolith, uh, what were the client problems, and how we set our client-oriented business goals. The resilient change in engineering approach, basically designing for the future, because all clients want right now, and for the engineering teams themselves, is designing for future and being resilient to changes. And finally, I'll be touching a bit upon APIs enabling multiple facets of engineering and what basically it helped us with. Uh, I'll be talking a bit about the two outcomes of this transformation, that is Viewpoint and the API product. The viewpoint.ei.com, the product that we eventually came up with, uh, helped us basically with a more user-friendly interface and a much more intuitive interface, whereas the API product got us into a REST API world for our clients to use the Viewpoint information in their applications. So basically tailoring content and data for our users. Now, with the business needs evolving and sorry, and software delivery getting cloud native, uh, the eyes will always be on how organizations use API-driven approaches to have a flexible and connected approach, and that's where we'll probably head towards a conclusion. Right then, what brings me here? Akhil gave an introduction, but I'm in mid of the great industry stalwarts here, and I'll be talking about the transformation of the product, which was for our users, that turned into a game changer for the organization. This is on back of the strategists who plot it all. We call them the product folks, and then finally the engineers on ground who do it, and what we were as a team able to achieve out of that. And that's basically our key takeaways from any transformation. Now, being a front-end engineer at core, APIs or microservices architecture for me are at the helm of an efficient, performant, and reusable interface and experience. The use of APIs allow business and engineering to explore avenues basically for sustainable growth and expansion. Uh, what this means for us? This for us means how product and technology are changing the way clients access our content. Right then, I'll move to setting some context. So, the Economist Intelligence, for those who don't know and for those who know about it, there are multiple verticals, and in context of the huge amount of content that we generate, there are two pillars around country analysis and industry analysis, and much more to go with it. The reason I say these as the pillars is because in this ever changing world, we always have impact on the different industries and the countries that we are working on with. So, some numbers. Now, while we are covering when we talk of transformation, it's important to quantify what we are transforming and what it actually means when we talk about numbers, when we talk about content, what does it mean to technology. And given the numbers that we cover, it and that fitting into a monolithic architecture will set up some context around what that monolithic architecture was. Now, covering 200 plus countries, 350 plus indices, 100 plus country and industry analysts feeding into that, and the number of users using the applications is huge, which means we'll touch base on what our previous speaker just talked about: monitoring, observability, ensuring the higher availability of the application across, which is very tough to maintain with a monolithic application. Now, what that also means is that if you have n number of products, you have n exponential challenges to kind of monitor the product, ensure its availability, and to maintain them. And that's where our next set, that's the problem statement that comes in. So what was the problem statement? Now, in case of a monolithic application, and that to a very legacy based application written in classic ASP.NET, plugged into a SQL server, now a SQL database, and now you can kind of in your mind draw a figure of how complex it would be to kind of break that down and build scalability on top of that. Now, what that meant for us was we were falling short. Where were we falling short? So the first biggest problem for us was, in a monolithic architecture, it's very difficult to cater to different users. How is that difficult? Is because while there are some clients who could just directly come to your website, your apps, and just use your content, it is very difficult for us to cater to clients who want to integrate this content and data into their workflows. They need APIs, they need feeds that push this content and its updates into their system. We were able to cross-pollinate content. When I was setting the context, I talked you through the different kind of content that we cover. Now, if a client comes to me and says, "Will get me some context of the industry in with respect to a particular country," well, then it's a developer's night gone in terms of thinking what we can do to build a new solution and a new add-on to this monolithic architecture. So country, industry mapping, data to content, content to themes, and in this ever-changing world, we have a lot of themes around which content is being built. The war in Ukraine, the coronavirus, and which means that as an organization, from an editorial perspective, we definitely have to be on our toes. But from a technical perspective, we always have to be ready to serve new content and be enabling our editorial to surface that content up, which meant that we had to have customized user journeys. And to build those customized journeys, we have to have that flexibility from the technology side. And that also meant that our internal teams had really restricted scope of innovation, because given the architecture and a single entry point to the content, that's the database, and a single entry point for all the products is very difficult to maintain and scale. The beginning of a turnaround. The reason I call it a turnaround, because it was not a gradual shift of where we started from migrating from a monolith to a microservices architecture. We practically just started from scratch. And when we started from scratch, it was because we had to orient our business goals to the client's need. Also keeping in mind that there was a lot of resilience for our clients who were already using the product that we had in store. So we have to keep those business needs in mind as well. What the next step was to decompose the application. Now, this is a very critical step, because in a monolithic architecture, the decomposition of application is at times can be fatal, or it can be game changing. Now, to decompose the applications, we had to actually get down to the grassroots to understand what all is set up. And as I mentioned, the databases, the applications all had to be restructured. The next step was decoupling and breaking apart the database. Now, in the current monolithic architecture, if you just simply skip to step 3 and just defragment the database, it's very difficult to kind of keep the logical architecture of the application with regards to the backend systems together. So that is where the next challenge came in. And finally, the end output that we wanted to have is the APIs enabling us our multiple facets of engineering, which meant the web products, the API, the product itself, and the feeds that we are generating for our clients. Now, the resilience in engineering approach was built around our approach to technologies and newer ways of working. We brought in a lot of new technologies, and I'll talk about that later down when we talk about the products that actually came out of and our key takeaways. And a new ways to publish content, which means that while we are catering to the user experience for our products, we are also catering to the user experience for our internal clients. And the point one that I talked about, our new ways of working, that meant that we are touching on the experience for the developers. That's the developer experience, which is now a key component of where your architecture is and how scalable that becomes. Now, talking about the products that eventually came out, the APIs, the website, the data feeds, and content licensing. Now, APIs is a very generic term. It feeds into the website to get you the data. But at the same point, our users are developers also for clients who are just taking the content and data from our applications. Similarly, for websites, the interface has to be very cross-pollinating supporting cross-pollination, which meant that while you were able to see content inside data, you should be able to see data inside content. The data feeds. So while the legacy system was able to generate a lot of files, we need to ensure that we were able to set them up as feeds to our clients who would be able to use this. So the information was also available as different data feeds. Now, content licensing, it's a part of the business, but eventually came out of this transformation that we were able to achieve. Now, viewpoint the platform. When we talk of transformation is not just restructuring the applications, but also ensuring that the technology you use is for the future. We used React and .NET Core for enabling modular UI and building the framework for APIs. We used AWS for our DevOps platform. And the key component here is that we built a strong monitoring and observability platform using Logs.io and New Relic. Now, it is very important that while you have built a new platform, it is readily available. And as I mentioned before, it is one of the key indicators of how your transformation has actually fared. So with this, we were able to achieve a responsive user interface that was enabled by these APIs that we created and the framework that we had built. We were able to create a front end that was able to respond to dynamic content structures. And as I mentioned, with the changing themes, changing content, it meant that we were able to surface out content in different structures. Now, curated content dependent on client entitlements. Now, it's very important to understand that not every client would need everything. A client looking for changes in automotive industry in India might not want to have subscription for a Singapore user or the Singapore country or United States for that matter. So we built a complex entitlement system. When I say complex, it's complex because it's a big network in between in terms of how our users can get individual access to components, but it was simplified from a developer experience perspective in terms of allowing the users to take that access at any given time in their product subscription. So that was also built down using APIs, and we were able to entitle clients using that. Now, ability to say what all of that above means is that we were able to sell independently all these services, and instead of selling this is a monolithic platform and that is what we are here to sell, we sell what the client needs, and we are always able to scale it up. Talking about the API product, which this conversation is based out of. Now, the REST API is a way for us to access this all information and include it as a part of the forecasting models for our client, setting up their dashboards. We set our authorizations and authentications using Amazon Cognito, which identifies user access via identity and access management solutions. And it integrates back to our IAM solutions on the website. We use the API gateway, AWS API gateway component, with which we have a lot of analytics and logs that we can ship back to the developer clients who use this product. And underneath the AWS API gateway, we have technologies supported like Elasticsearch, data APIs that we have built for our internal use, and that supports multi-platforms and multiple products built across for this Viewpoint application and for different other products of EAU. We followed industry standards. So earlier we were kind of serving clients based on what we supported. Now we went on to industry standards. So news in JS, that's NIN.js, is an output format supported and followed by all the APIs that was an industry accepted schema. Now, moving on to what we achieved. Now it's very important to understand while we achieved all the business success with supporting what our clients need, supporting what the business requirements were, being able to add new products, what we were also able to do was build a technology stack for future. Now, the technology stack is something we talked about, but the non-functional requirements or the bare or the requirements for the platform for it to be scalable, and the outcome of that was that our platform became much more available and dependent. This was proved on the fact that applications and APIs were now being monitored by multiple automated systems like New Relic, like Logz.io, and AWS CloudWatch Alarms, and so on. Scalability, the extensibility of the solutions to deliver new features. We talked about it with regards to different themes that have popped up in the future, in the past, and some things that are coming in the future which we don't know about. Now, the flexibility that our clients get, the flexibility that our developers get, is the options our users and developers have while adopting these APIs and the products that we built. Now, what that also meant is that it was a consistent conformance of the API's behavior to the developers' expectations. Now, that is very important when you're building a platform of that sort, because if the APIs are not consistent, it doesn't go well with the dashboards and the forecasting models of the clients. And smaller variations can also bring in big deltas in the results, which can be game changing, or maybe the wrong way. Moving to the quality part of things, we ensured that we worked on the testability and consistent conformance of the API's behavior. We also ensured that the time to market got reduced. As I said, with the scalability increased, efficient development effort optimizations were made, and we worked on the performance as well. New Relic is a great platform to set up all these measurements, wherein we were able to trace all the performance of the APIs that we built, and how our caching mechanisms being worked upon. And the applications were also measured on the ranks of the AppDex score, which gives the user satisfaction results, and is very useful to kind of talk about that. The second part of what we achieved was a bit that we touched upon. It was high responsiveness to global events like the war in Ukraine, the global monetary tightening, coronavirus, global goods and services trade that we talked about in the other tracks of the API Days conference. We are building what our client needs, and we are delivering it quickly. So financial risk, ESG, which has been the hot topic around, is something that we were able to deliver on the base of what we have set ourselves for. So it was a comprehensive assessment, and we gain a more robust perspective, basically. Financial risk, and I can touch upon a bit on that front, because it enables you to accurately identify, and accurately is the key word here, accurately identify sovereign and currency and banking sector risk posed by political and economic developments. And yes, as I mentioned, ESG has been the hot topic, because the environmental social governance is kind of relatable to each and every industry that we are a part of. Finally, the key takeaways that we had from this entire transformation journey that we traveled through. An efficient architecture lays a foundation for all the components of web development and delivery. Tools like New Relic are quite efficient and enable monitoring, and a resilient architecture with microservices reduces the risk of failure, because while you are transforming, it's very critical to have an eye on what are the risks over the rewards that you have. An API first approach can have a really powerful effect on how reliable and internal and external clients interact with your services. Consider designing. So one of the key learnings for us basically was consider designing and building your API first, and join those who have already managed to build this, and by inducing a positive changes into your strategy. It will have you save time, reduce spendings, boost performance, and that's where our association with some of our vendor also played a key role to this. Uh, our APIs while we are constantly monitoring those, our CI/CD pipelines that were set up using AWS were very vital to all of that. And finally, I think this entire API first digital transformation that we built, I think the theme here was that our customers, developers, and partners look to APIs to develop operational efficiency, accelerate innovation, and create rich customer experience. Uh, the resilience starts from within. I think, as I said, it all started off us deep diving into what our clients need, what we need as developers, and bifurcating the line of user experience built on top of a good developer experience. We built more resilience with these API analytics, data flow that was coming through the different monitoring systems that we had. And yeah, I think building and securing scalable APIs was the key thing. I think this kind of reminds me of one of the books that I read in the past. That's called The Path of Most Resilience. It's a must read. It's a recommendation from my side, because it is it basically themes around what what we need to start thinking about when we migrate from monolithic to the microservices architecture, or the API first digital transformation that I just talked about. Uh, while it sounds really cool, I mean, the industry is heading towards that. We all want to do that, and it is a must-have in this age that of technological advancements that we are into. But it's really important to ensure that the risk over reward thing is analyzed really carefully, and a resilient architecture is the way going forward. Yep. Thanks from my side, and I think I'll open it for questions.
Fantastic, Shaurya. That was amazing. Thank you very much. We have one question in the chat. It's actually two questions, but connected. Did you use EKS for building, or running your microservices? And secondly, how did you manage the cutover between a monolith providing a capability and then when you switched to the new microservices platform?
Yes. I'll answer the first one. You did use EKS, and to the second part of the question, as to how that transformation actually took over, is that it was a different journey. It was not the same platform being handed over to the new clients or the existing clients. I think while I was setting up the context, I did mention about the n number of products that we had, and while we had to segregate the content to be able to cross pollinate it, we also had to ensure that it was a single platform for our users to have multiple different forms of products that they want to have access to. So if I tell you I have 10 different products and have 10 different logins, and 10 different entitlement setups that you need to be a part of, I think it doesn't work with clients. So
Yeah.
the way we migrated was that we moved product by product into a new platform. What that meant for us was that we took step by step advancement in technology. We first migrated what we could lift and shift. Then we moved on to setting up content, migrating content first, and then allowing users to access the content from a different platform, and then building a website on top of that. So basically, APIs give you content. A website on top of that is just a cherry on the cake. Then it allows different variety of users to access the content, and then in parallel we were able to migrate and build more users around how they interacted with our data feeds and our other API products.
Yeah, fabulous. It sounds like your platform really was your innovation engine, right? As you made that platform more complete, now you're able to, as you said, the cherry on top got more and more interesting, perhaps because you're able to expose various things to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
fantastic. Rudolph, hopefully that answered your question. If not, feel free to add more questions in the chat, and hopefully Shourya can look at those and answer that in the future as well. Another quick question: what was the name of the book that you mentioned? Just type that into the chat so people have it.
The one that I mentioned in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the book name is The Path of Most Resilience.
Most resilience. Okay,
Yep.
fantastic. I'll have to add that to my list as well. So fabulous. Well, thank you very much, Shourya. That was actually quite fantastic. I actually had a couple of questions for you as well, but we have unfortunately run out of time. Yeah, maybe in the future I can buy you a coffee, pick your brain, and see what you did. And I'm sure there's many lessons to be learned. If you don't mind, once you go back into the kind of main area, on the stage chat, if you can just pop in your contact details or anything you want the team to know about, that would be fantastic. And also there is an ask for an architecture diagram, which may or may not be sensitive information, but I'll let you answer that on the chat as well if you don't mind. But thank you very
Great, sure.
much. This was really, really useful. Thank you.
Sure.